So this is my response for 0 degrees. I have my laptop with my notes if I'm like staring that way. So for question 1, what kind of like stood out to me and caught my attention right off the bat was the use of like their storytelling through their body. Like their body was their instrument. And the movement felt like personal, emotional. It was almost like having a conversation without words, which is what's so beautiful about art like this. I feel like when they would mirror each other, it felt very powerful to watch, as if it was like two sides of the same person, and stuff like that. That caught my attention first. And like also the change between like explosive moments to like synchronized moments to like small moments, like stuff like that. For question 2, for the elements, I felt like rhythm and gesture. So what I mean by that is like for rhythm, I felt like the sharp rhythmic like footwork. You can really feel like the traditional aspect of things, like of the pulse in those sections. And then another I felt is like how Hun used his hands and his facial expressions to show emotion and meaning. For question 3, one thing I didn't fully understand at first was like the use of like kind of like the passport and the border imagery. Like I just need to look a little deeper into it. I understand after looking into it that it was inspired by his real experience being stopped at border between India and Bangladesh, which made the performance kind of click a little better. For question 4, which was what do you think 0 degrees says about identity, I kind of thought it was like talking about identity in a sense of belonging. So it shows like how complicated it can be to almost like live between different cultures, meaning they have different rules, standards, expectations, and all of that. I also felt like there was a really strong sense of power and control in this piece, almost showing like the way systems, like the system can kind of divide people against one another. And then for question 5, which was uses gestures to tell stories, that question. I think the storytelling plays a really big part in this performance. The gestures and the movements feel like a way of like remembering. The body is able to tell stories that the mouth or like the brain might not be able to. Which is what I think makes this piece so emotional, and what makes art so beautiful is that as humans we are able to express feelings and emotions through ways other than just speaking. I dance, so like that was always a huge thing for me growing up, is that I always would dance to convey a message. So I felt this piece wasn't necessarily trying to tell one clear story, but to show how memory and identity are like made up of lots of small broken stories in a way that create a bigger, greater story. And then for question 6, my 2 questions were, how does the use of mirrors or symmetry in 0 degrees reflect the theme of like a dual identity? And do you think the piece gives any answers about belonging, or does it just leave the question open for like interpretation?